back to the channel. As I mentioned in a previous video, this is one of a short series of, I've decided whether I'm going to do 3 or 4 yet, but a short series of videos about cornering on the bike. In the last one we covered positioning, into, through, and then linking the corner that you're in with the next one as far as your position is concerned. In this one I'm going to look at speed assessment for corners, and specifically using the limit point, which I find a very useful and very straightforward way of assessing the speed for a corner on approach. So I think I mentioned previously that probably one of the most common types of accident for motorcyclists, especially when nobody else is involved, is just getting corners wrong, either carrying too much speed in, getting your line wrong in the corner, finding you've got into a corner and it's tighter than you were expecting it to be, or that it's tightened up on you. So using the limit point is a really good tool to have in your toolbox that helps you make that assessment on approach. There's a good principle of safe cornering that it's always easier to put speed on through the corner than it is to take speed off. And I will talk about acceleration and the use of the throttle through corners probably in the next video. The first thing I'd encourage you to do is, I have done a much more detailed video about limit points. It's a car video, but the principle is exactly the same, so I'll put a link in the description below. I'll try and do that thing where they link it from the video here, so whether that's a little button that I'll put on the video or a link that I'll put through, I don't know. But please go and have a look at that video, because that looks at limit points in much more detail. And it saves me having to faff about in the edit on this one, taking still photographs and circling the limit point. So go and watch that video. In basic terms, the limit point is the furthest point we could get an uninterrupted view of the road surface. It's the point where the near side and offside verges appear to meet. Doesn't actually exist. It's a bit of an optical illusion really, but it gives us a really good clue as to how tight the corner is, or is not. And the other thing to remember with the limit point, well, a couple of things to remember. First is it's the distance you can see to be clear. So if we're applying the safe stopping rule, we should always be able to stop in the distance we can see to be clear. So that essentially is how you judge your speed, using the limit point. Look at the limit point and ask yourself, can you stop? If the answer is no, you're probably going a bit quick into the bend. If the answer is yes, I can stop, keep the bike under control on my own side of the road, then your speed's okay into the corner. So it isn't the same question you might ask yourself if you're into track days or track riding, where you'll be asking, well, how fast can I actually get around this corner? What's the maximum speed I can carry around? It's not the right question for the road. The question is, can you stop? If you get just out of view around this corner, if there's a cyclist or a fellow motorcyclist off the bike, or some other issue that we need to stop for in an emergency, can we stop? That's how we use the limit point. And the other thing then to remember with the limit point is that it moves. Now, it doesn't actually move because it doesn't exist, but it moves relative to us on the bike. And the closer we get to the limit point, the tighter the corner is. So the 3 movements of the limit point are: it moves towards you, then at some point it becomes stationary, and then the final thing it does is it moves away, it fires off into the distance. So if that limit point is getting closer and closer, this one's getting a little bit closer now. When we're on the speed phase of the system of bike control, we're going to be reducing our speed. Might be just by rolling off, but here the limit point's quite close, so I'm braking. But at some point it stops getting closer. It becomes stationary, by which I mean it remains a consistent distance away from the front of the bike. At that point you've found the tightness of the corner. And that's the point at which we would just keep the bike in as balanced state as we can through the corner, out the other side, linking it with the next corner. So let's have a look at the limit point for this corner that's coming up. It's a right-hander and we're getting closer to it. It's getting closer and closer. I'm taking a near side position, and now it's stopped getting closer, it's just rolling steady, a constant distance. then it fires off into the distance, then it tightens up again. So near side, the limit point's getting closer, I'm on the brakes. I come off the brakes now the limit point's stationary. It's stationary as we go around the corner, then it fires off into the distance. So as it fires off into the distance, that's when we can properly roll on the gas and accelerate the bike out of the corner. So you'll notice as I'm going around the corners, my head's looking in a different position from the front of the bike. I'm looking through the corner where I want to put the bike. Look where you want to go. Look where you want to go, the bike will go where you're looking. So let's look at this next corner coming up. It's right in the distance, it's a left-hander. So on approach, checking the mirrors, nice early move to the offside towards the centre line. It's a broken line through the corner. I'm looking through the corner to see if you can see any traffic. But the limit point is getting closer, it's getting closer, and I'm now rolling off the gas on the speed phase. A little bit of brakes, down a couple of gears, now the limit point is static, and now it's going away from me. For the next one, this looks a bit tighter, so I'm positioning near side, the limit point's getting closer, I'm slowing down on the brakes. Now it's static, down 2 gears, roll the bike in, and then eventually the limit point fires off into the distance, and that's where some people use the term chase the limit point. It's not a bad term to use really, although I wouldn't like to catch it. Things have gone badly wrong if you actually catch the limit point. So for this one here, the limit point's getting closer. I'm positioning near side, on the speed phase on the brakes, off the brakes, down a gear, rolling the bike in, and watching the limit point fire off into the distance. Now it's getting closer again, I'm just off the gas in third, that's slowing me down nicely. The limit point is now static. I'm rolling on the gas gently and then out towards the centre line. This one's a bit tighter, I'm down to second gear, rolling it in. The limit point's now static. It's static all the way around, now it's firing off into the distance. Look at the limit point for this right-hander now, it's a bit more open, this one. Going back to the previous video, we talked about positioning early on the approach to corners. The big advantage of getting an early position on the approach to corners is that you will see the movement in that limit point earlier. You'll see it at the earliest point. So if I take a nice offside position here, alright, we're dropping into a speed limit area, but that limit point starts to move. If I keep a near side position on the approach to a left-hander like that, I get much closer to the corner before the limit point starts to move. So consequently, I'm going to have to slow down more. So one of the things I really want you to do with limit points is look at the limit points as you're riding along and keep asking yourself, can I stop in that distance? Because the other thing that does, as well as wind people back who might be a bit quick into corners, or there's a lot of people as well who are perhaps a little bit overcautious with the speed assessment into corners. When you start looking at that limit point and asking yourself, can I stop in that distance? It'll wean you off the brakes a little bit. It'll give you a bit more confidence that the bike will go around the corner. It all starts with a good position on approach like this. So here in a long left-hander, I'm holding a sort of position 2 and I keep looking back to the limit points. I'm looking through the bend and where I want to go, but I keep looking back to the limit point. Now we're into the near side. The limit point here is static. It's getting closer, sorry. Now it's static. Now I'm rolling with it. And then it fires off into the distance. So hopefully from that little short stint, that road, by the way, was the A5008 north out of Buxton. I mentioned in the previous video I've not spent much time riding around the Peak District. The roads are lovely, just mithered with 50 limits and quite a lot of traffic. But for this sort of practice where speed isn't really important, it's more about being accurate, getting your position right, getting your speed assessment right, they're ideal, these roads, lovely. And actually the road condition isn't too bad either compared with other parts of the northwest. But that's it, a little demo of how we use limit points. Please have a look at the other video, the one that I've linked below or wherever I've put it on the video. There will be a link in an obvious place to that video. And on that video I sort of, you know, I take screenshots, circle the limit point, point out exactly where it is and how we use it. And the principle is the same in the car. You'll be able to stop in the distance you can see to be clear. The limit point is the distance you can see to be clear. but I thought it'd be nice to do a speed assessment video for corners on the bike as well. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, press the like button and press the notification button as well, the little bell. You get an email every time I upload a new video. Have a look at the website, reglocal.com. Loads more information there about advanced and performance driving and riding. Information about the books that I've written and how you can get a day out either driver or rider coaching with me if you fancy it. And give us a follow on Twitter as well, at reglocal. But for now, thanks very much for watching and we'll see you in the next video.